I was highly motivated by this interracial experience I began to have. I mean, I had no aspirations to go to college other than West Point. You know, as I said before, nobody in my family had even graduated from high school. Well, I remember in this one literature class, we were supposed to write a major term paper on some author, which meant, you know, reading autobiographies and biographies of a poet, reading all his poems or many of his poems. So I decided to do my paper on Langston Hughes. Put a lot of time and effort in, and certainly the work that I put in, that was as good as in any other class I did. And I got up and made my report, and the teacher said, well, unfortunately, Langston Hughes is not a real poet. So I got marked down from an A to a B. But also in, you know, the racism of the teachers was, well, it wasn't so abnormal for the time, but as I thought about it later, or as I started experiencing more intergroup relations activity, it, you know, just really assaulted my conscience. Like there's this one time when there were very few blacks that attended Hamilton Junior High or Lincoln High School at that time. They were mainly kids in special programs like the sightseeing class, which was where kids would be bused from all over town, where they'd have special classes with large print books and other things to help those with seeing disabilities. And then they would have a few disciplinary transfers. And so one day this white guy named Metcalf insulted this black kid who had transferred in on disciplinary transfer. George was his name. And so George smacked the white guy. Well, and George was not a violence-prone guy. He was a very gentle spirit, so it really must have been pretty offensive. Well, in social studies class, where you would have thought there'd be the most open and enlightened sort of discussion, the teacher ran it that day, ran it on and on about blacks and how they all smell a certain way and they're prone to violence, da-da-da-da-da-da. And then I remember I had a teacher in physics who was anti-minority, anti-poor. He would always try to illustrate some principle of physics with some derogatory comment, like he said, well, the law of inertia, that's like people on welfare. Things at rest tend to stay at rest. Well, I finally, by the time I met this young guy named Phillips, like Michael Phillips, I think was his name, who was the son of Scoop Phillips. I was in one of the classrooms up on the third floor of Lincoln High School, and they seemed to relegate all the teachers with some cloud over their reputation or their involvements up there. And we happened to be in the class. We met in the class of this woman who was reputed to be a communist. They hadn't actually fired her, but it was, in terms of the quality of discussion and topics covered and intellectual stimulation, it was one of the best classes I had there. And so this son of a communist who was in the class was, you know, granted more freedom than he had normally had in his life in recent years because of this anti-subversive climate was covering the country, and Seattle included.